Thank you for joining me today for today's webinar on simple to complex creating cut lines with Adobe Illustrator. Again, my name is Kevin Rosen. I'm the application specialist here at Rosen DGA. What I'm going to do is we're going to start off very simple, and we're going to kind of go a little complex. So we're going to jump to the next title real quick, and we're going to cover a couple of simple things first, then we're going to kind of get a little bit more challenging. So the first thing you're going to learn from this webinar and kind of take away is how to create cut lines on text, names, numbers for your ripping. In this case, it's going to be for VersaWorks. How to create cut lines on rastered images, and some tips and tricks for cut lines for some challenging images, and ways to create easy weed lines. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and jump into my laptop here. And we're going to start off by kind of covering the overall look and display of Illustrator. Right now I'm using Adobe Illustrator 2019. What I want to do here is I actually want to first show off the kind of panel here. If we see up here in the right hand corner, if I click this, we have different modes that you can actually select from. For today's webinar, I'm actually going to be using the Essentials Classic. That'll allow me to have all the little titles and things I'm going to be using for today all in the right-hand corner at easy use, okay? Little housekeeping that we're going to do at the beginning is I'm going to show you how to create a spot color. To do that, we're just going to kind of go right into it. I'm going to go into my swatches here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new color by clicking on a new swatch. Okay. Now, VersaWorks is kind of unique where it uses a set naming convention to cut a specific cutting path. We do that by calling a spot color, and that will become the cut path. The naming convention is cut contour. So as you can see here, I've placed cut contour. The next step is spot color. These are the most important steps here for you to actually get a good starting cut line, okay? This color can actually be really anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be magenta, but for today's purpose, I really like to use magenta. A lot of files don't really use straight magenta, so it'll be a little bit easier. So as we can see here in our swatch area, if I highlight over it, it'll say cut contour, the name that I actually used. Plus, you'll actually see in the bottom right-hand corner of that swatch a knockout with a little dot. That's indicating that this is a spot color, okay? This is just one method of actually creating the spot color. We actually use these spot colors in our libraries, and I want to show you how to actually get all your libraries into Illustrator. I have two different methods, and we're going to cover them right now. So for the first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and delete this by just dragging that color off, okay? Then I'm going to go to my swatch library menu, which is right here in the bottom left-hand corner of the swatch menu. I'm going to slide all the way down to Other Library. I'm going to click on that. This is going to bring up the default window to find where your swatch libraries are. For this case, we're using VersaWorks 6. In VersaWorks 6, they house everything on the native drive. So we're going to go to C drive. We're going to come over to the Program Files section. We're going to double click there. We're going to come over and look for VersaWorks. Okay. Now that I'm inside VersaWorks, you should see a swatch folder. If we go in here, we have the options for importing Corel Draw or swatches or our Illustrator swatches. For today's webinar, we're focusing on Illustrator. This is the entire library for our current lineup. So we have from textures, gloss layers, white, metallic, even our new VG2 orange color system library is here as well. For today's webinar, we're going to actually focus on the Rosen VersaWorks library. So I'm going to click OK. And as you can see here, we actually have a panel that opens up. And that panel has several swatches already, several swatch colors already created. We have cut contour, perf cut, white, RGB_white, gloss, so on and so forth. A lot of the special colors that we currently use. I'm going to use this one for today. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of dock that over here. Okay. Now, the next step, and this is going to be a little bit more for those people that are always in Illustrator and they want to have it at a click. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how to actually import everything. So if you notice in my swatch menu, I actually have the swatch library here. You can take the entire library contents of Rosen VersaWorks and put them into Illustrator. So when you relaunch Illustrator, you will see all of the new swatches that are Rosen's. I'll show you how to do that right now. We're going to go to our folder section here. Okay. I'm going to go to my PC. I'm going to select my local drive. And as you can see, we're going to be navigating back to VersaWorks. So I'm going to go back to the program file section. I'm going to scroll down to VersaWorks, which is right here. Select the swatch again. Go to my Illustrator. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of these and hit copy. Okay. We could then navigate and go back to Illustrator, but I find it a little bit easier if we just select here. Go to our Libraries tab again. Click on Swatches. And then as you can see, all you have to do is right-click and paste, and you can actually put whatever library you want to have in Illustrator right here. So that you'll have to restart your Illustrator, but you'll have all of your Illustrator swatches there. All of the libraries that we created here at Rosen for you at your fingertips. Okay. Now, for the very next example that I'm going to use here is I'm actually going to use a jersey swatch or a jersey template. Okay, this is kind of the most common things that we see from heat transfer materials, even straight vector data from our standard cutters to our printers. Okay. There's several ways of us to apply a cut line, and I kind of want to cover a little bit of what a stroke is and what an outside path is. When you use the text tool, as you notice, you can actually type in all kinds of words. If you just have it default, it'll do something like this. You can also increase the size so we can have just letters here. If I were to do something like this, which I've done here in my trout jersey, I'm going to go ahead and click on the trout, and then I'm going to go over to my cut contour. But if you notice here, I'm going to go ahead and kind of show this panel off in this corner. If you notice that the fill section, which is this box here, is sitting on top of my stroke section. The stroke is anything like the outside line, or it could also be a color, okay, or a fill. It just depends on how you have your file set up. But if I were to look at this, I can activate the fill section or I can activate the stroke section by just clicking on it. If you notice that one box will sit on top of the other. By doing this, you actually can tell it, hey, I want the inside of this lettering to be a certain color or a certain spot color. I can also indicate, let's say I want it white. I have a white printer and I want it white. I'll do that. Okay. But for this demonstration, just so we can see it easier, I'm going to leave it as black. I'm going to click on this to stroke section here, and that is going to allow me to change the color of the outside edge of my trout name. If I click on the cut contour, you notice right here that it actually took that stroke and it actually changed that to the color that I chose. If I were to zoom in here, we can see that the outside edge is now our cut path. To confirm that, we can actually come up here to the top and we can actually look and see what color has been selected, our cut contour. Okay. Now, right now that I have this kind of zoomed in, I want to kind of show some things you can do with that stroke settings. The easiest way to access that stroke settings is just to click on the word stroke. As we see here, you have the ability to change the weight. So you have the ability to change the size of your stroke. You also have the ability to manipulate what kind of cappings you want. Rounded caps. You also have the ability to change your corners. So I can change it to a rounded, a squared, or kind of a beveled edge. For this example, I'm going to leave it as a square. The main key thing that we want to also kind of cover is your stroke should be set to the center. Okay? VersaWorks will see all of this color as data. So if I were to switch this to a one stroke, that is the center point that my cut line will go. No matter how big I kind of really put this, it's still going to find the center edge and go there. Okay? For this example, I'm going to leave it at a 5-point font so we can see it. Typically, where you're going to want to keep it is anywhere from 1 to 0.5 of a font. Okay? That actually gives you the kind of the better accuracy that you need for your cutting paths. But again, for this example, just so you can see it, I'm going to leave it as a 5. I'm going to scroll back out. Now, that's just one way of actually importing that. We can select the number here and we can see the stroke is active. But what if I have a number of swatches and I don't know what specific color I want to use, but I'm kind of getting confused. What I can do is I can grab this color and I can just select it and drop it. It does the exact same thing as selecting it. As you can see here, we have our stroke. Okay. Again, we can go back up to the size of that and I can hit 5 so we can kind of see it a little bit better. Okay. Again, that works with even your wording here. So I can drag that, or I can come up to here on the top left-hand corner. And because I have that color in my swatch library here, it's actually going to allow me to select it here as well. So I can create my line here. Change my font size. And as you can see, it's been reflected there. So this is kind of like the beginning portions, right? Kind of understanding that we can easily click and highlight and create those cutting paths. Let's get a little bit more challenging, okay? The next step we're going to do is we're going to go right into a rastered image, okay? So what you'll see here is you'll see, let's say your company. You have a company name, you want your stickers to have kind of a flair to them, so you design something really quick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you what I like to call like a blackout method, right? Where I'm going to knock this entire thing out in black, and then I can actually see where my sticker, the size of my sticker, and then I can go from there. So how I'm going to do that is first I'm going to make sure, I'm going to have to go to my layers panel here. Okay, as we can see, our layer is locked. That's fine, no problem there, because we want to print on top of that. So what I want to do is I want to go down here and create a new layer. Now, I'm kind of finicky. I like to actually rename this. So if you double click on the outside of this tab, or if you double click on the wording, you can change these letters from layer 1, layer 2. I'm I'm very particular. I like to, if I'm doing an artwork, I want my artwork here. And I want it to say artwork. If I'm creating my cut paths, I want to have just cut paths. This way, if I'm trying to troubleshoot, I know where I'm looking at. Okay? Now with this layer locked, I can't select anything and can't do anything here. Okay? And to unlock it, we actually can click here and you see the lock's gone. If I click it again, then the lock reappears. So I need to make sure that I'm selected on my top layer, which is my cutting path. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change this from a circle to a square. I'm going to reselect this image. I'm going to go to my swatches. I'm going to make sure that this is black. Okay? Then I'm going to simply draw my sticker out. Now, a little tip here, if you were to have these corners, these sharp corners, it actually will take a little bit more time to cut that versus a rounded edge. So what we can do here is if I select this little circle here, as you can see my mouse cursor's changed. If I select it, I can actually bring that in and make a rounded edge. See that? It's pretty cool. I'm gonna then come up here. I'm gonna press down left click, and then I'm gonna select on my ellipses tool. I'm gonna black out my circle. Okay, so this is kind of the shape of what I want my sticker to look like, but I'm not done yet. I actually want to kind of shape it and make it look a little bit better. So what I can do, I can come up here. I can make it a no fill item. And then as we can see here, I can zoom in. And I want to make sure that I have my cut line all the way around my image. That looks great. I'm going to zoom back out so we can actually see the whole image. Okay. Then I'm going to select on both images. I'm going to go to my pathfinding tools here. I'm going to unite them both. So as we can see, there's no fill in the center, but we have a black stroke, which is great. If I zoom in, I can see the path that the circle took and the path that my rounded square took. Pretty cool. Now all that's left is creating that cut line. So again, I've actually taken the cut line. You can bring it up to your library by just dragging it and bringing it up this way. Or you can just go back to what I said here is make sure that the black mark is actually selected, so my stroke is selected, and then click on my cut line. Now we have the cut line. So if I were to save this out onto my desktop, we will then be able to see we have a nice cut line once it's done saving. Okay. I'll drag this into my printer here, and I can see I have a cut line. So let's get a little bit more challenging now. So now that we kind of just played with it a little bit, kind of showed one kind of a method, let's go into more of a tracing method, right? Something a little bit more complex. Okay, we have an image here, and I want to kind of show what we have previously. And to do that, not this one, sorry. I'm going to show this image, okay? Sometimes for stickers, we have a lot more character to the stickers on white spaces, and we want to also add a little bit of a white space so that way When we use that sticker on a darker object, the actual characters of and characteristics of that image kind of show up. So we can see kind of like this spray pattern image here. This is what we want to kind of replicate, okay? So we'll jump into this next method, okay? This next method, what we're going to do, as we can see here when we go to our layering section, that we have our entire artboard here, okay? What I need to do here is I need to make a copy of this entire image. So I can select everything here by just dragging everything here. As we can see, we've got everything selected on this layer. I'm going to make a copy of it, so edit, copy. I'm then going to come down here and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to lock it. I'm then going to, again, go back to my methodology of I want to know what my artwork is, I want to know what my cut lines are. And I'll do cut path. Okay? Now that I have a copy of it, I want to actually place it directly on top. One way of doing that is actually just clicking on paste to front. That's going to actually take the same copy and paste it right on top of the other image. Okay? Now what I want to do with this image, I want to go ahead and kind of look at it a little bit differently. I'm going to kind of follow some of the same methodology. I'm going to go up to my Edit Effects section. Actually, I'm going to actually first, I'm going to go over to my pathfinding section and I'm going to unite the image. Okay. As we can see here, we kind of have some extra detail that I don't need. So what I want to do is I want to ungroup this whole section. I want to select the area that I want to keep. And I'm going to hit Shift and then I'm going to keep this entire blue area. So I'm going to click on that. That deselects that image and that allows me to actually delete. If I hit the delete button, all the extra little bits are all gone now. Okay? Then what I can do, I can then take this image and we can kind of follow the same path. And it looks pretty good. Looks like this is kind of where I want to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to my effects. I'm going to go down to my path. I'm then going to click on offset path. Now with preview section on, when I have this on, we will be able to see all the little bits and pieces everywhere. We will be able to see a positive value for my offset, or I can also do a negative value if I want to go that far. This is some stickers, again, we want to keep this characteristic, so we want to add a little bit more. As we can see here, it kind of beveled everything out. You can use different joints here, miter joints or even curved joints. These curved joints are a little bit better for cutting. As you can see, everything's smoothed out and you're going to actually see a lot better of a cut line there. Then I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to take this entire area and I'm going to then, because I do not have my library open, I now have it open. I can actually make sure my outside edge is being selected, then click on cut line. I can come up here and make sure that I remove my fill. Just taking a little bit of time, sorry. And now I have my sticker. Very similar to what we had prior. All right? So the next thing we're going to cover is the next thing I'm going to go over is kind of more of difficult thing. As we can see with this image, all we did was we hit negative on the path, and we are able to create that negative fill or negative path, and we are able to make that an inside sticker cut as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and load my next image. The next image is going to be a little bit more challenging, and we're going to kind of discuss a little bit easier weeding methods, okay? We're running a little short, so I'm going to kind of go over a little bit quicker. If we go over here to view, and we go to outline, we can see this entire image in a wire diagram. This is a little bit easier for us if we already know what their cut lines are. So I'm going to toggle back and forth, and I'm going to zoom in. As we can see here, there's going to be some hard spots if we were to weed. We have some fine points here, some fine points here. If I were to peel from the top down on this and try to weed this entire thing, we'll have potential tear points here, here, and right underneath the letters. We even may pull too hard and pull the letters off. Some sections, some things that I would recommend if you're doing this, you can cut the outside boundary of this image, and as well as create joints for cutting paths. So going back to my line here, I can create some lines and make sure these lines are using my cut line, and I can join them, okay? We can make sure that we have these points joined by going back to our view and outline, selecting the actual line itself, clicking on the node here, and what we're going to do is we're going to look over here and we're going to find snap on. All right, cool. We're going to snap to that point too. As we can see, it switched over to snap to. Now, when I actually do a weeding from the top down, it will pull this entire section, but I'm adding this white space in the center once I'm done clicking on adding all these extra nodes. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming to today's webinar. I hope you have a great day.